We turned in a parts order, so while we're waiting for a new clutch disc to come, we went ahead and made a little tool to line up the new disc, and this is just a round piece of aluminum stock. Actually, you could use a wooden dowel rod or anything. The small end, of course, goes into the pilot bushing, and the bigger end is made to go into the clutch splines. Now, ideally, we would like to see a proper spline tool go in there and pick up the splines, but this is a quick and dirty way to do it, and that'll align that clutch disc so that when we put the new disc in there and bolt the pressure plate down, the transmission should line up, be dead on center. What we're probably going to have to do here, this tool's a little short, probably going to drill a hole in the end here and put a 1/4 20 screw or something in there, make it a little longer so we can pull it out once we get the pressure plate on there. But that's going to help us line up our clutch disc. Just a simple tool. You can probably buy those somewhere. They come in all different sizes. I've seen universal ones that have different screw-on ends for different sizes, and then a tapered center section here. I don't particularly like those as much as having a spline or a solid surface to make sure you're in there good and square. The other thing we're going to do while we're in here today waiting on parts is pull this back plate off the head and see what we got underneath that. Hope that the plate is not rusted out. And we're just going to have to make a mess here because the petcock on the radiator doesn't want to turn so we can drain the water out, and I don't particularly feel like breaking it off, so we'll do it the dirty way and just let the water run down here. Hopefully we've only got to get down below the surface of the head and it won't make too big a mess. We'll see what we got here. Good news is we don't have any water coming out the screw holes. Ah, there we go. There's one. Get our drip pan down here. We'll catch a little bit of this. It'll stop eventually. In true backyard fashion, at some point we'll probably knock over the drip pan and have a mess all over the floor anyway. So, in the meantime, let's see if we can get this plate off of here. Maybe we can get something under. Yep, that came off pretty easy. It's a little bump. And there you have it. A big glob of goo in there behind that plate. Probably a good idea to take it off anyway. Gonna have to look at this a little closer and make sure that our plate's not rusted out. Typical with these projects, somebody has taken and put a big puddle of brass in the middle of this plate and then ground it all down. And over here we have a hole. You can see it a little bit better there, and A lot of brass on the outside once you get looking at it. So somebody's worked on this quite a bit over the years. Now there's a couple of things that we could do. Of course, we might be able to find another plate somewhere, or a new plate. It's just a stamped steel plate. I'll bet I got a piece of aluminum laying around here somewhere. It's just a rectangular plate. Don't know why I couldn't make a nice one out of aluminum, polish it up a little bit, make it look tidy. Or we could melt some more brass into this one and fill in this hole over here. I think the problem with that is it's just going to continue to rust. So maybe for this project the aluminum plate would be a better idea. We'll have a look around and see what we have and make a decision on what we're going to do next. Always, every time you fix something, you got to do something else first. It's always the way. We put in our parts order. Had to get ourselves a new clutch disc. In the meantime, we took a Scotch-Brite and knocked the ugly off of that flywheel, cleaned it up a little bit, and same thing with the pressure plate. And remember, we had our motor plate here that had a hole in it and a lot of brass on it, so kind of rooted around the shop and found a piece of 1/8" aluminum. Ought to do the trick. Cut it to size and drilled some holes in it, and it ought to go on there. Cover that up, put a little fancy design in it. You know, the aluminum will corrode as well, but at least we don't have a hole in it and peeing water out everywhere, so that'll be all right. I'll bolt right on there. As soon as our parts order comes in, we'll have a gasket from that. We could have made a gasket for it, but you know, for $1.280, you might as well just buy one somebody else made. I'm sure there's a few other things we need to look at here before we put the engine in the car, but we're getting closer. So a little bit of a short video this week. We're waiting on parts and trying to get back up to speed, but we'll get there. We've got a fuel line coming and some other pieces, so we'll get to the point where we get the fuel tank hooked up and the line up to the fuel pump and get ready to stick this engine in the chassis.